So my friend that lent me the GMT Master 2 BLNR has also got this watch. So, you know, there's not a huge amount about it out there, enough, but not a huge amount. So I figured I'd just get it on the channel. It's a thing, I tell you. The reference for this is 12660, so that's 126660. It's not the current model, it's the one before the current model, so it's one generation old. As always, I'll talk about the watch head, the bracelet, the clasp, the movement, and then a bit of a summary. So let's get the basic stuff over and done with. So it's 44 millimeters in diameter. It is 18 millimeters thick. We'll come on to that. 51.5 millimeters lug to lug and 22 millimeters between the lug. I weighed this one and I would need extra links, at least 2 to fit my wrist. And it's 211 grams without the links I would need. I would say most steel sports watches are between 135 and 145 grams. So it's a tank. It's an absolute tank. Right, so onto the case. Again, I'm disappointed, and I know this is a thing, and I know they're rectifying it on new models, but no case chamfering, I think, is just a disappointment. It just lacks refinement on a watch like this. And let's be honest, no one's taking this into the sea, right? No one's diving with a 10, 12 gram watch or whatever. Not this type of watch. These are luxury watches. So to not have chamfering, it just detracts from the watch for me. And this isn't going to be a comparison, but I've got this here, obviously. Even where it's not brushed, just having the extra chamfering just makes the case look so much nicer than that. So yeah, disappointment, but from what I can see, Rolex are starting to bring that in with their new watches. It has a helium escape valve, which I much prefer to the implementation of Omega with that actual manual release valve. I don't like that at all. What you can see is, while it's kind of in proportion in terms of the bezel thickness, the case thickness of the back of the case, it's just massive. It's just a hugely thick watch. It's a weapon. You could beat someone to death with this thing. Nice guards for the crown. Nice brushing, as you'd expect. Nice polishing, as you'd expect. But yeah, it's just huge. I'm trying not to get my fingerprints on it. I'm resisting using the gloves. So yeah, you can't kind of escape the slab-sided effect that it has just because of the size of it. And they've done their best. You've got a really thick bezel, making it obviously easier to grip and use, and a decent case back. But it's just an absolute tank of a watch. That's probably the best way to describe it. It's just like a tank. So due to the male end links, again, I don't know why they do this. It's actually 53 and a bit millimeters lug to lug. You can see they stick out a little bit there. And again, you can see on the Tudors, they've got female end links, so all the way in. So it drapes on your wrist a lot more comfortably. Not a problem for me because I've got quite a big wrist, 7-inch wrist. But for those with smaller wrists, it just means, like all the other watches, it doesn't wear like the dimensions suggest. It wears like a 53 millimeter lug to lug, not a 51 and a half. I don't understand why they don't use female end links. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe it's to differentiate between Tudor and Rolex. I'm not sure, but for me, it's a bit of a bugbear. I don't quite understand that, to be honest. And then lastly, there is some titanium on the back of this case. I did try to research why this is. I'm not 100% sure. Apparently it's something to do with the what's it called, the ring lock system, which is actually printed on the Rehort. So there is titanium on there, not 100% for the reasons behind it, but you know, it's just a slab of titanium. It doesn't look particularly pleasant. No different from having a steel case back. So the main event with this watch is obviously the dial. So this is the James Cameron, and everyone knows what that's all to do with. So this watch was sent down on a submersible, and it obviously went 3,900 meters deep. And the blue graduating to black is to symbolize the depth. So you start at the top of the sea where it's bluer, where you got light penetrating, and then it goes to black as you get down to the bottom. That paired with the green text, I think, is absolutely superb. I really do. I think it's the most enjoyable dial of any of their dive stroke GMT watches, apart from the Meteorite white gold GMT Master 2. That is a belter. But this is just such a lovely dial. I absolutely love it. It looks fantastic. There's no Cyclops on the crystal, which I absolutely love. The crystal is 5mm thick, 5mm thick, which gives you a nice distortion, which again, some people love, some people won't. I actually really like it. I think when you're looking at the watch in different angles, you just get that little bit of distortion come in, and I think it looks great. And obviously that's to get the depth rating, so it's 5mm thick crystal. But I love the way it distorts when you look at it at an angle. The date wheel itself, I think, is fantastic as well. It's kind of like sunken in. You can see there the glossy edges to it as it kind of curves into the date wheel, as opposed to just being a flat cut finish. So it's some consideration there, and it does look nice. It's most people might not notice that, might not care about it, but I think it's a nice implementation. The date wheel sits nicely with the other markers on the dial. It doesn't look out of place. On my IWC, it was too far inbound as a dial, and it looked a little bit daft. Here it works really, really well. Then you've got the chapter ring engraving. So it says original gas escape valve, a bit daft that. And then ring lock system. It is what it is. I prefer it actually where it has Rolex, 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 Rolex all around on some of the older models to that. But it does make the watch feel a bit more sporty, having that there, which I do quite like. And then obviously you've got the Mercedes handset with a sword hand for the minutes, lollipop hand for the seconds. Everything's white gold ready and plated. And it's a very, very nice dial. That blue to black gradient with the green is just spectacular. Way too much text. I don't know why they do it. It's the same with a number of their other watches. In fact, is it like that on this one? It's not quite as bad on my Pelagos, but there's still 4 lines. But there's 5 lines on this, which is just unnecessary. It just looks stupid. Just Deep Sea and Sea Dweller would have sufficed, and then it would look absolutely fantastic, but way too much text for my liking. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Give me a second. Yeah, so that's probably it. So the bezel action. The bezel is nice. It's your modern bezel action for a Rolex. When you slow it down, I'm not going to say, it doesn't feel gritty, but you can definitely feel the movement in between. I'm really torn as to whether I prefer that one or the Tudor. I like the extra detent at 12 o'clock on the Tudor. It's a very different sound. It's 60 click as opposed to 120, obviously. I'm just trying to work out which one I prefer. But they're quite different. I like them both a lot. I do find the bezel quite sharp on this watch. I haven't got a modern Submariner, my friend's got one, but I think where they've made the bezel extra thick and easier to grip, those cuts inside are just that little bit deeper. So as a result, it's a little bit sharper and you can feel it on your fingers. It's not unpleasant, but you can feel it. It's really hard to choose between them. I think I prefer the Tudor, you know. It's got a nicer grip. It makes a more satisfying sound for my taste, and I like the detent at 12 o'clock. So yeah, I do think I prefer the Tudor bezel action over the Rolex, which some people disagree with. That's up to you. That's just my preference in this instance. Obviously, it's a ceramic bezel insert, so it won't ever scratch. It will just be fantastic. And yeah, it's a lovely, lovely dial and nice bezel action. But yes, I do think I prefer my Tudor. Standard Oyster bracelet, as I say, mail-in links, which I just don't understand. Feels really solid, exactly as you would expect. Tapers from 22mm down to 17, which is really important because it's such a huge watch. You need to take some, not only visual weight, but physical weight out of the watch. So instead of being 22 all the way down, or maybe a small taper, it's quite a strong taper. And I do like that. It makes a really big difference. No quick adjust on the straps, but again, you don't get that on Rolexes of this era, and you don't even get it on Tudors. Hopefully they introduce that at some point, because I do think that would be a bonus. So you can strap it on, maybe put it onto a rubber strap. You wouldn't wear it on a NATO, it's way too heavy, but you could wear it on a solid rubber strap, especially the Oyster Flex, because they've got steel inside them or some kind of metal inside them. So that would be good. Another area this watch excels is the clasp. So what I have noticed with Rolexes and having a look at a few of them, where they do really excel, the bracelets, I genuinely think the bracelets themselves are as good as anyone else's. I don't think it's any better really than my Tudor bracelets I've had, my IWC, my Omega, etc., etc. But where they do excel is their clasps. They're just so solid. The only complaint I've got is, again, on a really modern one, no ceramic ball bearing still. And it is spring-loaded, so I don't understand why they don't just put ceramic on there. It feels nicer, it has better longevity, etc, etc. But again, you kind of have that beak system here, where it kind of moves and it's spring-loaded, so it adds extra security to the clasps. When you open it, you just can't open it unless you pull up the beak. Whereas on the Tudors, they have nothing like that. You literally just pull it up, but you do have ceramic ball bearings, so it feels a lot nicer to use than the Rolex. But you can tell, even though this is a very good quality clasp, you can tell a difference in quality between that and this Rolex one. It's just another level of engineering that's gone into it. The other thing, which is really quite special about this actually, is instead of having a glide lock system, there's a little bit there that you get your finger under and it comes up, and then you can see you've got 1mm ratchet positions, and then it actually moves in and out, and you can do it on the wrist, right? So if I put this on my wrist, it is an absolute weapon, this thing. So you open up the clasp there, you pop open the ratcheting section, and then it just moves. It's actually not that easy to do, but it's because my wrist is quite big, and this is sized for my friend's wrist. It's a lot smaller, but you can just move it in and out. And then when you close it, that locks back into position and it stays where it is. In fact, let's just try and do it. I did do it the other day. It was hard, but I did do it. So you put it down on the surface. It's not that easy to do. You can do it, but it's not that easy to do. But there you go. You can see how chunky that is. It's an absolute behemoth. 18mm thick. And what I have found is when I wear it, it kind of pulls the skin down from here on my wrist, because so you have to have it tight. A watch like this, you can't wear it how I wear my watches. I wear my watches quite loose. As I'll show you with my Tudor actually, for comfort. I don't like tight watches on my wrist. So I have quite a lot of movement in my watches. You know, they kind of slip around my wrist a bit. A lot of people won't like that, but that's how I find them comfortable. You cannot, and that shows you the size comparison difference. Right, so this is obviously a far, far smaller watch, but it gives you a good idea of the difference, because lots of people have obviously got this, 'cause it's more affordable and you can go into a shop and actually buy the flipping thing. Put this on my wrist again, and you'll see just how much of a weapon this is. And it is crazy. But yeah, you do have to wear it tight, snug on the wrist, otherwise it will slip down, pull your skin, not very comfy. So when you do wear it, you do have to wear it quite tight. As well as that incredible ratcheting system, which you can see those on the back. So they're kind of like the glide lock holes, but it's just a different way of accessing them. It also has a diver's extension. Very much like, can I open this? I did open it before. Now I'm being an idiot. It's actually really, there you go. So it folds open, quite thin steel actually, but it's a huge extension. It goes from kind of there to that. So it's a very significant extension. But it's ugly, right? And very similar to the Tudor, if your wrist is the wrong size and you can't get the right size on it, again, it wouldn't be like this, I'd have more links. You can see it, and it's not particularly attractive. So I don't see the need for it. And apparently on the newer model, they've actually got rid of that dive extension and just extended the micro adjustability of the watch itself, which is good for everybody. So yeah, massive fan of the clasp. Overall, I think it's a really great bit of kit and probably the best engineered clasp, aside from my IWC, which is on a par that I have seen. Movement, nothing special about movement. I'll chuck a picture in. It's the 3235. It's a workhorse, beats at 28,800 beats per hour, 70-hour power reserve, which is great. And then Rolex Superlative certification, so mine is 2 to +2. So obviously very good, very solid movement, what Rolex are really known for. So what do I think of this tank of a watch? This watch, in Savannah proportions, I know you can't do it. I know the whole point is James Cameron. I know the whole point is it's deep sea, and that's why you get the blue and black dial, but it's just too big. It's just so heavy, and it's too big for my tastes. Now, my friend has a far smaller wrist than me and is a smaller person than me, and he loves it. and he wears it snug on his wrist, and he absolutely loves it. And I can't argue with the look of it, the aesthetic of it, the dial of it is fantastic. But for me, it's just a bit too big and it's too heavy. Yeah, the colour scheme is superb. The movement and the clasp and the dial make this watch. But yeah, for my taste, it's just too large. But great to have it on. Really appreciative to my friend for lending it to me. And as always, if you have any questions, please just let me know.